everybody out there in the bookverse, it's Stephanie. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about my stats for 2019 reading wise. It was a good year for me. I think that I got through some really good books. I got through more books than I usually do because I got involved in the bookish community, and so that did boost my reading. So I'm pretty happy with my stats. Of course, I want to do better next year, but these stats are better than I was expecting for this year. So let's just jump into them. If you're new to my channel though, welcome. Thank you so much for watching my videos. If you would like to see more from me, definitely subscribe down below. Hit the bell icon so you'll be alerted when I post new videos, because I'm going to be posting quite a few during January. I'm going to do all of my end of year wrap up videos this month. So yes, definitely don't want to miss those. And let's get into my numbers. I'm going to start with my Goodreads for 2019 because I feel like that's where everyone starts, and it's a really easy platform to track your reading with. Sorry, I have my computer with all my information here, so if I look down a little bit, that's why. Also, you might notice that the lighting is a little different here because I'm actually awake during the day, which is really weird for me, and really loud, I have noticed. I didn't realize that the daytime was so loud, so I apologize for like construction and the garbage truck and all that stuff going on outside. So in 2019, I read 59 books for a total of 23,605 pages, which is honestly, I'm pretty pleased with because I've never really tracked my reading before. I actually don't know what I usually get, but I'm good with this. The shortest book that I read was Snow, Glass, and Apples by Neil Gaiman. This is kind of a short story that was converted into a graphic novel. Very interesting, unique take on the Snow White story. So if you want a kind of creepy Snow White story, you should check that out. Longest book that I read was London by Edward Rutherford, and that was 1,152 pages. That's really interesting historical take on how London came to be. My most popular book that I read was City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. Over 1.6 million people have read that book. So that's only the ones that have marked it on Goodreads too. Like, that's insane. That's a huge number of people. My least popular book was The Problem of Susan and Other Stories by Neil Gaiman, which isn't surprising because it's kind of another one of those Neil Gaiman book stories compilations that have been taken and made into a graphic novel. So it's not the first time that that story's been published. My average rating for the year was 3.6, which I think is pretty expected. I tend to rate a lot of my books 3s. 3 is it's a good rating for me. It's a book that I enjoyed reading, but not something that I didn't really find that special or that amazing for me, that I didn't enjoy an excessive amount. So that's really expected from me. My highest rated book, like the ones that other people have rated the highest on Goodreads, was Heartstopper 2 by Alice Oseman with an average rating of 4.68 stars, which is ridiculously high and great. That means that most people are rating it 4 or 5. That's really, really good. So that's kind of my Goodreads, and I am actually going to talk about the rest of my reading stats using the, oh my gosh, what's it called? The Book Riot Tracker. I found this through Janine over on This Story Ain't Over. I'll link her channel down below so you can check out her stuff if you'd like to. She talked about her reading through that as well. And so I'm going to jump in there, my 2019 reading log through this. First, I'm going to kind of just talk a little bit about the format of the books. Honestly, almost all the books, 88% of the books that I read were print format. So they were actual physical books. And this doesn't surprise me at all because I don't really read books digitally. I have a Kindle, but I don't really use it that much anymore. And I don't use Audible as much as I would like to. So I would really like to change that a little bit this next year. I would like to use Kindle more, and I would like to use Audible more, maybe Libby for some of that kind of stuff as well. So definitely want to work on the format of the books. Also the form. Almost all of the books that I read were prose as well. So 84% were just regular books. I was surprised on my short story collections. 5% were short story collections, which I think were all Neil Gaiman short story collections. Comics were 8.6% and novellas were 1.7%, which was probably just one novella and like 2 or 3 comics. So I didn't read a whole ton of different forms, which I would like to get into a little more comics this coming year. We'll see how that goes. From where I got my books, seriously, about 59% I bought this year. I had a little bit of a book buying problem this year, and I would like to work on that because I feel like I should read a little bit more of the giant, ridiculous TBR that I already have in my house. But about 29% came from my own TBR, so books I already owned. Ugh, that hurts. I borrowed 8.6% and 3% were a gift, which I feel like more were probably gifts from my husband, but when I was filling this out, I didn't really think about that until I got to one that was gifted to me from somebody else. And so I didn't really fill it out as ones that were gifts from him. I put those into like either the purchase in 2020 section or my own TBR if he bought them from me before. So I think the gift one is actually probably higher than it says on here. I didn't fill out all the stats on the authors that they had available on this sheet, which I was kind of disappointed in because I would like to know a little bit more about the different authors that I'm reading, but I don't really pay attention that much, and I would like to change that in this coming year. I'd like to pay a lot more attention to the authors, kind of where they're from, like what their backgrounds are like, learn a little bit more about the authors of the stories that I'm reading, because mostly I'm just into the story, I'm just into what's in the actual book, and I'd like to change that. But I was pretty impressed. 66% of the books that I read were by female authors, and only 34% were from male authors. So I definitely read a lot more female than male authors, and that wasn't even on purpose. I just kind of randomly did that. So I'm pretty proud of myself for that, considering I'm a female and, I want to support the other women out there. Types of books that I read. Honestly, 97% were fiction and 3% were nonfiction, which I think that means, 2 of the books were nonfiction. That's going to change this year. I have set a goal for 2020 that I would like to read at least 5 nonfiction books. So we'll see. I'm already reading one for this month for work. So at least I'm going to knock one out of the way because I have to. Audience-wise, 53% were YA. I noticed when I was filling out this tracker that towards the beginning of the year, I read a lot more adult books. And then towards the end of the year, I read a lot more YA books. And I think that's because I got a lot more involved in the Bookstagram community and Booktube community, and the people that I was watching tended to gravitate more towards YA. I have kind of broadened what I watch since then, so I think this next year I will hopefully be reading a lot more adult thrown in there, but I enjoyed YA as well. So it's not like I don't like YA. I feel like it's totally fine to read YA. I love it. I love a lot of the stories, but I'd like to get a little bit more into the adult genre as well, because on my own, that tends to be what I gravitated towards before I got into the bookish community. 37% were adult, and then 10% were children or middle grade, which is thank you to Believe-a-thon, because that probably wouldn't have happened otherwise. Genres that I read. Absolutely no surprise to me whatsoever is that 72% were fantasy. I absolutely love fantasy. It's my favorite genre, and I'm not planning on changing that too much. I want to read some other books, but I want to read what I like, and I know that I love fantasy, so I'm definitely going to be throwing other books in there this next year in 2020, but I'm not going to try to change that number too much. I love fantasy, and I want to read it, and I want to read books that I enjoy. I want to have 5 nonfiction and 12 classics, but honestly, some classics are fantasy, and I'm fine categorizing them that way. I feel like The Hobbit is a classic and it's fantasy, and Peter Pan is a classic and it's fantasy, so I'm fine reading fantasy. I love it. Sorry. Well, sorry, not sorry. And 3% were historical, so probably read 2 historical books. 1.7 were mystery and crime, which I think I had to throw thriller on there. I threw my, I think that is The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware, because there was no section option for thriller, which I guess mystery crime is kind of thriller, but it's not always. So that one was kind of a thriller, just so you know. 3.3 were nature science, and I'm gonna be 100% honest with you that I don't even know what books those were. So general fiction were 13%, and that is the contemporary area, and then 5% were sci-fi, which I'm surprised that only 5% was sci-fi. You'd think I would gravitate a little more towards that, but apparently not, and I'm okay with it. So when you divide out my page counts, I actually am pretty like I would have expected this when I looked at it. For my book lengths, the majority, like the vast majority were from 300 to 500 pages. So the biggest section was the 400 to 500 range, which is definitely not surprising. Fantasy books tend to be a little bit longer, contemporary tend to be a little bit shorter on average. Not all of them, I know, but that's totally makes sense for me. So I'm not surprised at all about the lengths of the books that I read. I know that the shorter ones were my graphic novels, so also not surprising. Retail, this is where I bought my books. 73% came from Amazon. Oh, it's painful, guys. And this is the books that I actually purchased this year. I didn't mark of the other ones because I didn't know where I got a lot of them. So 73% were from Amazon. That's just, it's night shift, guys. I'm telling you, working night shift, you get on Amazon. 13% were Audible, 8% Barnes & Noble, and 5% were iBooks. I don't know. I put like the ebooks into the iBook section because there wasn't an option for iBooks or ebooks. iBooks. I don't even know. I should Google that, but I didn't. And my star ratings, which I am actually very glad that I did. This graph is really weird looking. It's hard to tell, but I don't tend to give 1-star ratings to books because I feel like just because I did not enjoy a book does not mean that other people wouldn't and that it was like horribly written and just a terrible book. I feel like I would only give a 1-star book to a book if I had some serious major issues with it where I felt that other people probably maybe shouldn't read it, or I don't know. Like, I don't tend to give 1-stars anymore. I might have in the past, but I don't tend to give them anymore because I don't read books that I feel like are that terrible. I think I have a better screening system for that. 2 stars they're books that I really am like just so not impressed with. 3 stars is a very average rating for me. It's something that I liked. Like, I did enjoy this book and I probably would tell other people if they specifically asked me about it that they should read it because I thought it was okay. 4-star is a good rating for me, and I feel like the majority of the books, like the highest number rating was 3 stars for me, and then 4 stars came next, which I'm very happy about. And 5-star was still higher than 2-star, which means that I picked more books that I absolutely loved and had potential to be favorites for me than books that I thought were just pretty much duds. So I'm actually very pleased with my star ratings, and I don't think I need to worry about anything about that. So these are my statistics for 2019. I'm actually pretty happy with them, but considering I've never tracked my reading before, I don't know. In the future, I'd like to keep track of the authors a little bit better and the nation of origin for my books. That was another option that was on this list that I have no idea, because like sometimes I'll know they were from the UK and sometimes I'll know they're from the US. But other than that, I don't really know a lot of where my books come from. Sometimes I will if I'll know that they are translated from another language. Like the manga that I read, I know that that was translated from Japanese. So obviously it's from Japan. And I know that like The Shadow of the Wind is one of my absolute favorite books. And I know that that is by an author that wrote it in Spanish. I believe he's actually from Spain. So like those types of things, like I know, but in general, I don't know if they're translated. I don't pay that close of attention. I just want the story. That's something that I would like to change, something that hopefully you'll see in my next year's stats. But yeah, that is everything I got for you about my 2019 reading. I hope that you enjoyed it. I really enjoy looking back on my statistics for my reading for the past year. I thought it was really enjoyable and I learned a little bit about myself and things that I feel like I should work on. Let me know how your reading went, how many books that you read last year, if you're happy with your readings, if you feel like maybe you rated too many books low so that you feel like you need to be a little pickier about the books that you read in the next year. Let me know down in the comments. Definitely chat with me down there. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more from me, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you'll be alerted when I post new videos, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.